90% of this, if not more, is purely mindset. It can all be learned. You know, I don't see a loss as a failure. I see it as, well, how can I learn from that and how can I bounce back from that?
And welcome back to my channel. So I'd like to say a big thank you to today's sponsor, which is Casita Properties, the UK leading property company when it comes to off-market discreet buy-to-let sales. I welcome and have the pleasure of Liam Ryan from Assets for Life.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me, mate.
Pleasure. Great to be here and excited to see what we're going to talk about and how we can help your viewers.
Yeah, it's going to be massive value. So let's kick this off with Liam. For those of everyone who's going to be watching that doesn't know you, give us that background of who you are and what you do.
Great, good. So my name's Liam Ryan. I am one of the co-founders of Assets for Life. Assets for Life is the UK's premier property business and wealth training company. So we help individuals start, scale and grow their property portfolios. We work with private funders to help them get a better return on their money and build their own property portfolios. I love what I do, love business, love entrepreneurship. I'm a family man, married with 4 amazing children, and always looking to help people where possible.
Great. Well, you've made a lot of positive noise on social media, and obviously, we met through a mutual friend. And what I like about you is that, one, you've got great energy, taken property by storm, but also there's massive value that you're giving back. So, where did the journey start for you, and why was it property? Okay,
so really my journey started even when I was in the playground. I've always had that entrepreneurial flair. I used to hang out with a guy called Tim. My mum introduced me to him when I was in secondary school, and he was a market trader. And I really loved the idea of buying and selling. And I always knew in my hearts of hearts that I was, going to have my own business. Always had this drive and desire to have lots of money. I grew up on a council estate, listened to my mum cry herself to sleep every night. It was really hard for her to put food on the table. And I remember thinking at a very young age, all I want to do is protect my mum and help my brother, and for us to get off this council estate and live the life that we deserve and we desire. So really for property, first time round was in my early 20s. So I bought my first investment property at the age of 21. I was living overseas. I was working in sales and marketing. I was their top salesperson, and I watched a TV program, and it said, "Hey, buy houses." So I thought, that's what I'm going to do. So that was my first ever investment property. And that really took me on a journey of building quite a large property portfolio overseas. So I predominantly bought in Spain. And over a 10-year period, I invested a good few £1 million into property. And then in 2012, I made the decision that I was going to move back to the UK. The business had changed. We had the crash in 2008. I wanted to get back to my roots. So I started the process of selling my businesses and also looking to liquidate my property portfolio. So I gave the task to one of my advisors, a guy called Graham. Amazing guy. And if you can imagine Graham now, he's like 5'2". He's 60 years of age. He's got this big white beard, curly grey hair, wears glasses down at the bottom of his nose, just like a bit of a pit bull, but like a really nice guy, right? Anyway, a few months later, Graham calls me and he said, "Look, Liam, you need to get to my office. I've got an update." So there I am in Graham's office. And a few minutes later, he just like steams in the door, throws this paperwork in front of me, looks me dead in the eye, and he said, "Liam, I'm afraid to tell you, but you've lost €2 million. And I don't know if your viewers can relate to maybe being given some bad news or something not going according to plan. But certainly in that moment, I just wanted the ground to swallow me up. And I felt really scared. And I felt really panicked and really confused. A few days later, I figured it out. It wasn't that the game of property was wrong. It's just that the player wasn't playing it right. And I made every single mistake in the book first time round in property. I bought off plan. I bought new builds. I bought from Glossy Brochures, BMV deals overseas. I bought from really hot, sexy estate agents on the Costa del Sol, and I got done. So that was my first time round in property. And I moved back to the UK in 2000. So I finally got back to the UK in 2014 and met, through one of my other businesses, met Jay Munoz. And he was a property investor, and we started the journey again.
It's one hell of a journey
Yeah.
you've had.
So that was the bad stuff.
Yeah, and I can imagine there are many lessons that you've learned
Yeah.
along the way there. I mean, you know, boy, that sounds like a bit of a roller coaster
Yeah,
ride that
yeah.
you've been on. And I suppose really, first thing is, you know, they say that you can make a mistake, but you know, it's only a mistake if you learn from it. And I take it you've learned massively from your first experiences.
100%. So going into this journey again, I can definitely tell you what not to do. And look, really, through that whole time, you know, I was pretty young, I was pretty ignorant, I was making a lot of money. I made every mistake in the book. And through that period, I had no mentors, I had no guidance, I had no advanced training. You know, how ignorant was I to think that I could watch some YouTube videos, read a couple of books and watch Homes Under the Hammer and become a property guru
And you're ready to go.
and ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work like that. Property can be difficult. It can be easy at the same time, but one bad move can put you out the game. So when I came into this again back in 2015 and I met Jay, who's the other co-founder of Assets for Life, it was like, look, I've made some money, I've lost some money in property. What have we got to do to really take this to a new level? Because I always know I wanted to get back into property, I just didn't quite know how, and I certainly didn't know the UK market. So we seeked out great mentors, went on advanced training, started with some cash flow strategies, built the confidence, built the team. Fast forward 7 years, you know, I've now been involved with over £28 million worth of deals. And certainly if I can do it, anyone tuning into this can do it.
So let's throw some perspective onto it. So for the viewers who are going to be watching and they're sitting there thinking, Liam, I can relate, I come from a bit of a background myself, you know, I want more from my life. Let's start with the money, because I know that's a big hurdle for a lot of people, is that they think, I haven't got the money, I don't know where to start. So, you know, what are the first steps of getting some cash behind you and then starting in property?
Great. That is a really good question. And here's the thing, right? When I heard someone say that you can build a multi-million pound property portfolio using none of your own money, my initial thought was, it's got to be a con. And then my second thought was, well, maybe you can do that, but there's no way in the world anyone's going to lend me money. You know, I lost money in property first time round, and the monkey on the shoulder appeared and started to tell me all of the reasons why I couldn't do something. However, I thought, you know what, I'll keep an open mind and I'll see how it goes. Went and got advanced training, set the company. So this is really important. It's about laying the foundations. So make sure you work on your structure, your company, your website, your branding, your business cards, your unique selling points, what you stand for, what you stand against, and really have a good understanding to the value that you bring to your potential private funders. So I did that work for a few weeks, and then I just started to put myself out there. And I started just to tell everyone where possible who I was. Hey, Assets for Life. We're a private property investment company where we work with private funders to help you beat the banks or build your own property portfolio hands-free. That's really what we did in the early days. And then a couple of weeks later, what happened, a guy called Will, who was my marketing manager in my renewable energy company, he called me, said, Liam, I've seen what you're doing. I've got someone that you need to meet. His name's Dave. He lives in Basildon. He's just retired. He's got a bit of cash, doesn't know what to do with it. Do you want to hook you up? I said, yeah, great, hook me up. So there I was, a few minutes later, calling Dave. Hey, Dave, it's Liam from Assets for Life. Our good friend Will's put us in contact. Just a normal introduction. I believe you've got a bit of access to cash. Don't know what to do with it. Is that correct? He said, that's correct. I said, well, look, best thing to do, because here's the thing, right? You just got to get yourself in a pitching situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no expectations. And if you sit down with enough people and you explain who you are, what you do and how you can help, at some point someone's going to say yes.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, Dave, let's meet up. I'll come and see you. If we can make something work, amazing. If not, no problem. It's going to be great meeting you anyway. Anyway, next day, I'm down in Basildon at his social club, do what we need to do, go back a second time. So the follow-up when raising money is really important. And he became my first private funder. He had 50K. I thought he was going to give it all to me, but he only gave me 5. But I remember when it happened, right? It was because up until that point, I was like, I don't think I can do this. There was this like lack of confidence and lack of belief. Yeah, I was questioning myself. And then the moment we shook hands, I was like a kid in candy store. And my mindset shifted because I thought, well, if I can do it once, I can do it 100 times. And I raced home and I gave Holly the good news and I called Jay and I gave him the good news. And I knew from that moment that I would never have to worry about money ever again to raise for any property deal.
Yeah, I think let's break this down. I think some really important points to touch on here these are conversations I'm having a lot, is about positioning. So you said about setting up foundations early on, and I don't think this necessarily just relates to property. I think this is any business, is your positioning and how you are displaying yourself, because like you say, we have social media to keep up with now, the website, word of mouth, the networking. There's a lot of plates being spun. And what's your kind of take on, if someone sets up a social media profile, I always say this: there's no point having, let's use Instagram for example, you get 3 photos for your feed and then you get your stories. There's no point having your lasagna, then your dog, and then a little bit about property, because like you say, when you have to have these conversations, I find that a lot of people now, they're looking for validation. So if we were going to work together and we didn't know each other, you're going to look for validation in me, normally through social media, and I'm going to look for validation that you're doing what you're saying you're doing. So I think that's really important, is that positioning of whatever the market you're going into, right?
Yeah, I think that's so key now, because certainly in business, the way we communicate and build relationships now is very different to, say, 10 or 15 years ago. And it's very easy to become visible, through the social media platforms. People can search you up in literally a matter of seconds. So if you're going to be, and we're talking about property, if you're going to be going into property, then, you want to be seen as the property person and you want to share what's going on. So I just look to take my potential audience on a journey with me. The good, the bad, the ugly. Be honest, be transparent, be yourself, but always look to deliver really good content. And it doesn't take a lot. Most people are on social media, but they are what we call a consumer rather than a producer. And if those people just became a producer and just gave it a go and just started to put themselves out there and take a bit of a risk, then it doesn't take long to build up that profile and build up the following, and people can check you out and make sure you're credible. I
think when it comes to raising capital as well, is one of the conversations that I have a lot is when we go through what they're doing right now to raise capital. It's amazing that we actually get to sort of the base of it, and they haven't done a lot. Like, there's no post, there's no talking about it, there's no what can you do for value, who are you and what you do. And I find that quite amazing, because I think if someone's going to work with you, you need to talk about what you do, and you need to let go of this whole imposter syndrome, because everyone's learning all the time, right? I think as long as you're being open and transparent, there's nothing wrong with saying to people, this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to do, I need capital. And then it's down to the investor to say yes or no. But it's amazing, like, so many people want capital, but they're not actually talking about what they want to do and how they can add value.
They're the world's best kept secret.
Basically,
and that's what it is. So I definitely feel like most things in success and business and wealth, that 80% of this, if not more, is purely mindset. It can all be learned. Anyone can do it. As long as you're an honest, caring individual and you generally have got a good product, then you should be letting people know who you are and what you do, because otherwise you're being of disservice. So what a lot of people do in property, they go into property, then they find this great deal. And let's say they need to raise 50 grand. And then it's like, oh, now I'll start posting. You can't do one post. Well, you might be able to, but my experience, you can't do your first ever post or one post and you're going to get a lead. You've got to build it up. So if there's anyone here now that's in property, the quicker you can start building up your social media profile, because you might not need the money today, but what about in 3 months or 6 months? And if you've took your audience on that journey, they're already going to know you, like you, and trust you. You're then more likely to generate a lead, and then obviously convert that into an investor.
Consistency. That's the thing. I mean, I've worked with a fair few investors now, and they all have a common theme, is that they want consistency. They want to see they want to see that spark in you, that you know you have the intention to do well, and you need to be talking about it. And that's the other thing, you know, relationships, they are built over time. This isn't an overnight thing. I know that we've spoken before, and you know, you've replicated what I've said to many people at a time, is that it's not going to be the first lunch, it's not going to be the first Zoom call, it's going to be the third, the fourth, 6 months down the line, but then you're going to bag yourself a £1 million investor. It's like, you know, take your time. And I heard this great quote, and a lot of people, I think they limit themselves thinking, well, how could I ever work with a millionaire? Like, why would they want to work for me, you know, from a council estate and stuff like that? And I love this saying was, if we look at millionaires and successful business owners as car drivers who are going on the road and there's a guy thumbing and he's wanting someone to pull over, everyone's going to carry on driving by. But as soon as that guy stops thumbing and he tries to push his own car, you're going to get people pulling over to help him because they're seeing the hard work. They're seeing someone who's trying, so they're likely to help that person.
I love that.
And I like that breakdown, is that you would keep driving, but if you saw someone pushing a car, you'd actually stop and think, I'm going to give the guy a hand. And it's, you have to put yourself out there. So relationships do take time, don't they?
Yeah, for me, like, I've had some private funders, I've met them once and I've walked away with a couple $100,000. Lovely, yeah? Just, this is who we are, this is what we do, there's a good connection, we've built up some rapport, and it is as simple as, are you in or not?
Yeah.
And if you are, great. If not, no problem, yeah? What do we need to work on? And then other people, it might be 6 meetings, 7 meetings, 8 meetings, they're not quite ready, and you don't need to put pressure on people, but the magic is definitely in the follow-up. So one of the most important things that your viewers can do, and including ourselves, is whenever you finish a Zoom or a coffee or a lunch with a potential private funder, make sure you book in the next follow-up session.
Yeah.
It's so important.
I think little things, certainly that's worked for me, is just like, you know, at Christmas, sending that card or sending that message, or, you know, a nice sort of tailored email to that individual, and also like saying thank you. What I've found works really well, and what's great when you work with investors is most investors know other investors, right? You get that nice ripple effect. And one thing I found is, if you just turn around randomly, this has worked well for me, by just saying thank you, you know, just want to say, loved working with you last year, or whatever it might be. They didn't expect it, and they're like, look, I've got some cash again, do you want to go again? We haven't been in touch for a while. And just kind of, I think you've got to bring that human element when it comes into property. That's what they say, isn't it? It's a human's game, right?
Yeah, and also go and have fun with some of your private funders. So some of my private funders will go hang out at the theatre, spa days, Italian meals, go-karting, clay pigeon shooting, race fast cars. It's like good fun.
Yeah.
It's not even hard work.
Yeah.
Like, and there's other private funders, they only want to hear from me once a year, a quick phone call to give them an update.
Yeah.
So you got to see what your private funder wants. But yeah, just building that relationship. And here's the thing. I've currently got £9 million of other people's money somewhere in circulation in different products. I continually want to bring on new private funders, but I want to make sure that I retain the current 9 million and keep returning, recycling the money, because then you can do more deals, you can do bigger deals, and you know, you'll continue to have a positive impact on other people. So you know, recycling the money is really important. Looking
after your network. I did. I think I can imagine you can relate to this, but I did a TikTok recently which kind of broke down those 3 investors, and for myself now, and what are your thoughts on this, is I don't tend to work with retail investors anymore, because the TikTok that I did was, a retail investor is like, you know, very hands-on. They want to know where their money is, and it will only be the smallest pot. And then obviously, you know, you bring yourself up to a high net worth, they want to make sure the deal stacks up, and then normally the deal's done. And then you get sophisticated investors that will have someone look at it, and it's done like that, and all you'll get is money's been transferred, and it's very simple. Have you noticed the caliber difference?
Yeah, for sure. There are a number of, let's say smaller private funders that they want to know a lot more, probably call me more than the larger investors, and you know, I don't mind. I really don't mind, and I wouldn't work with any private funder unless I wanted to hang out with them, and there was that connection, and our sort of values were aligned. And for me, if I can help someone with £20,000 get a 10% return, well, that's just as good as helping someone with £2 million on a 10% return, because it's 10% which is valuable to them. So I do try and help as many as I can, but I just make sure I work with the right type of investor where, you know, we're not going to do each other's heads in. And I also set the expectation as well. But for sure, I tend to find the larger, sophisticated investors where we're doing bigger projects, bigger JVs, they don't even really want a phone call from them that often. They just want to be left alone, mate. Yeah,
yeah, they've got advisors and all sorts of legals in place. For someone watching this thinking, okay, love the conversation, raising capital, I'm going to jump straight into it. But for the average person, I always like to kick it back to the average person who might have a family, be working the 9 to 5 or, you know, maybe shift work, whatever it might be, and they're trying to find those extra hours to side hustle into property, but they haven't got a lot of capital. What are the realistic steps where they need to start with minimal capital, and let's just say minimal knowledge? What are the starting point?
Okay, to raise money, or you're talking about a property strategy?
They need some capital.
Okay.
And to get themselves into property. Let's call it a buy-to-let.
Okay, great. So the key thing would be to get yourself on some form of advanced training. Today I've got day 3 of what's called our Property Millionaire Bootcamp, which is my flagship advanced certified training. So either with me or someone, but go to a reputable training company that's got good history, invest in yourself, get trained. If you can, get mentored, be part of a mastermind group or some type of academy support network. Then really decide. So let's say you decide your strategy is buy to let, but you haven't got any money to get started, then you've really got 2 options. Option number 1 is that you raise money from private funders on loan agreements, and then you buy the property for cash. You follow buy, refurbish, refinance, add the value, refinance out, pay the investor back, and then you all own the asset 100%, either in your own name or in a company name, depending on what the best structure is. Or the other option is that you'll go and work with a JV partner where they'll put in the money, you'll do the work, make sure they're a high net worth or sophisticated, certainly if they're going to issue them shares in a special purpose vehicle. They put in the money, you do the work, and then you split the ownership and split the rental income 50-50, and then ideally they get their initial investment capital back. So they're the really 2 options in terms of structuring the deal. So how do you do that? Well, again, foundations, go networking, friends, family members, social media, business type events, charity events. Wherever I go, I've got this like radar on my head, like where's the cash?
Yeah.
Who am I sitting next to? You know, even when I'm on holiday or on a train or I'm just constantly thinking, who could someone here be a potential private funder? And all I look to do is just try and generate as many leads as I possibly can. And if someone's willing to sit down with me and have a coffee, I'm there.
Yeah.
Present yourself, find out about them. If you can make something work, great. If not, no problem.
It's being open, isn't it, all the time? That's the thing, is like you're always searching for that opportunity because you don't. That's the thing, you know, investors and JV partners, they come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily know it. And I think you know, you hit the nail on the head when you say about being in the right room. You know, what room can I be in to make an impact of telling everyone what I'm about? And then who can I work with?
Yeah.
Who's right for me? What would you say, as we sort of come to a close, what would you say has been something that's really impacted your life personally and in business to help with mindset, focus, and absolute determination that you're going to make this a success?
Wow, what a question, yeah? So a situation that's impacted my life. Well, I think my roots, you know, watching and listening to my mum cry herself to sleep and struggle to put food on the table, that was really the start of my we're going to survive, you know, we're going to have a great life. Other things that have impacted, bullies at school. You know, I always say I'm going to prove those bullies wrong, you know, because I was the kid at school that went in with the crappy clothes, you know, and the bullies picked on me. So, you know, that fueled me certainly to do well. Having losses as well. You know, I don't see a loss as a failure. I see it as, well, how can I learn from that and how can I bounce back from that? So I've had many losses, many wins. And certainly some of the losses have made me even stronger. And they're some of the biggest moments I've had, my biggest wake-up calls. So back in 2014-15, I was forced to close a business. The official liquidation figure was minus £392,000. It was a dark moment for me. Certainly cried myself to sleep for a few nights. But through that, it was like, I've got to get out my own way.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm not doing something quite right here. I need to go and get re-educated. Through that, I met Jay. Through that, I met who is now my wife, Holly, because she was one of my staff members. And now I've got another 2 amazing children. None of that would have been possible. So I had to go through that loss to get the next win.
Yeah.
So I think as well, just owning the losses and not letting that beat you up and put you out the game is really important.
You absorb them, don't you? And I think,
Yeah.
like you said, it makes you a stronger person. And actually, I remember someone said to me, try not to look at time frames of certain goals, because if you don't hit them, which we won't always hit them, you'll be disappointed. Whereas I think accepting that success, however you define it, is going to be a journey. Like regardless of, it might be quicker for you, it might be slower for me, it's going to be different for everyone. But just to, really letting it sort of thicken up our skin, and eventually you'll become that end product. And I think, you having your reason why and that fire sort of drives you through. So there are some amazing points. Is there a book that you're reading at the moment, or that stuck out that you could recommend to the viewers?
Well, I can recommend my own book. That's good. Bricks and Mortar and Other People's Money. You can get it on Amazon. Yeah. That's all about raising money. So if there's anyone here today that is looking to raise money, then they can go get that on Amazon. I really love the books by Richard Branson. I read a lot of stuff by Tony Robbins. So there's lots of great stuff out there for sure. And it's really important for your viewers to consume content.
Yeah.
But consuming content is one thing. Actioning is even more important. And that's why I think it's important to get around really good people that are going to support and help you to grow is important. Think and Grow Rich is a great book.
Yeah, that's a great book. I mean, that's a big point, actually, isn't it? Is not hoarding knowledge, not becoming a librarian. If you're going to learn, take it on board, but then you've got to pull the trigger, otherwise what's it for?
Yeah.
So, no, great points. Liam, if people want to reach out to you and get in touch, where can they go?
Yeah, great. So Instagram, if you go to Liam J. Ryan Wealth, hit me up. If you send me a DM, I will send you out my best-selling book. So just hit me up a DM and I'll send you my book. You can also go to YouTube, Assets for Life, and you can also go to www.assetsforlife.co.uk.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, mate. Huge
Awesome.
value.
Thank you.
And everyone who's watched, thanks so much, and we'll see you all very soon.